There is a kind of tiredness that has nothing to do with sleep. You get it on the good days, the days when nothing is wrong, the work went fine, the people you love are healthy, and there is no crisis anywhere you can point to. You lie down at the end of one of those days, and something in you is heavier than it should be, and you cannot name the weight, because by every measure you were handed, this is the life. Joseph Campbell had a name for that weight. Not depression, not burnout. He called it the wasteland, and he said exactly how a person builds one. You build it by refusing the call. Refusal of the call, he wrote, converts the adventure into its negative. Your life does not go neutral when you turn something down. It curdles. Somewhere behind you, and it may be 20 years behind you, something asked you a question. It was not loud. Campbell said the call almost never arrives as a trumpet. It arrives as a blunder, an interruption, a small wrongness you notice and immediately explain away. And you said no, not out loud. You said no by getting busy. You said no by being reasonable. You said no in the most respectable way a human being can, which is by saying later. And the refusal did not end there, because a refusal is not an event. It is a structure. It has to be held up. Every year you do not go, the not going needs maintaining, and the maintenance costs more than the going would have. That is the tiredness. Before anything else, understand that the refusal is not cowardice. Treating it as cowardice is the single most common reason people never get past it. Watch a small child in a room. Every few seconds it does something nobody asked for. It moves toward a thing because the thing is interesting, and for a while there is no gap at all between the impulse and the motion. Then the child learns something. It learns that some of its movements bring warmth into the room, and some of them bring a cooling. Not punishment, usually, just a small chill, a face that goes flat, a silence that arrives half a second too early. And the child, who is a genius at this and at almost nothing else, begins sorting its own impulses into two piles, the ones that are welcome and the ones that are expensive. Notice what makes an impulse expensive. It is not that it is bad, it is that it cannot be explained in advance. A family will fund almost anything you can justify. A call cannot be justified. That is its defining feature. If you could explain why you have to do the thing, it would not be a call, it would be a plan, and plans frighten nobody. So you learn to lead with the plan and bury the call. And you did it so early and so well that by the time you were grown, you no longer experienced it as suppression. You experienced it as taste. You genuinely believe you do not want the thing. The refusal got moved out of your will and into your personality, which is the only place a refusal can hide for 30 years without anybody noticing. Campbell finished The Hero with 1,000 Faces in 1949, and the world has spent 70 years using it as a screenwriting formula. It was never that. It is a map of an interior event drawn by laying the world's mythologies side by side, and noticing they were all describing the same few moves. The first move is the call. Something ruptures the ordinary. Campbell says it often arrives through what he called a blunder, a mistake, a wrong turning, that turns out not to be wrong. The second move, and this is the one everybody skips when they teach him, is the refusal. It is not an optional stage. It is on the map because it is what most people actually do. Now hold that against Carl Jung, working the same ground from the inside. Jung pointed out that the word vocation does not mean career. It comes from vocare, to call. To have a vocation in the original sense is to be addressed by a voice. Anyone who has a vocation, Jung wrote, hears the voice of the inner man. He is called. So Campbell is describing from outside what Jung is describing from inside. Campbell watches the hero standing at the mouth of the forest. Jung sits across from the man in the chair who has just understood that the life he built is not the one he was addressed about. Same event, 2 vantage points. And they agree about the price. Jung called the development of personality at once a charisma and a curse, and said its first result is the conscious and unavoidable separation of the single human being from the undifferentiated herd, which is a cold way of saying it will cost you people. Which brings us to the thing you have actually been waiting for. Most people never answer the call because they are waiting for it to arrive with a subject line. They are waiting to be told what. They assume that when the real one comes, it will be specific and legible, and that it will name an occupation. It will not. A call has a direction and no content. That is why it is so easy to dismiss and so completely impossible to forget. So you have to read it by its symptoms. It is the thing you cannot stop noticing. It is the person whose life produces in you a flare of envy so sharp and so immediate that you have to convert it into criticism within about 2 seconds. Envy is not a character flaw, envy is a compass with the needle painted over. And it is the boredom, not ordinary boredom, the specific kind that arrives in the middle of something you chose, something you are good at, something you are being paid or praised for, and which feels much less like tedium than like grief. That is the wasteland reporting in. Campbell said the wasteland is a place where people live not out of their own initiative, but out of what they think they are supposed to be doing. The barrenness is not the punishment for refusing. It is the information. Say you have heard some of this before. Say you have already decided privately that one day you are going to answer it. Here is why you have not, and there are 5 reasons, and the last one is the real one. 1. You have been looking in the future. You are scanning ahead for the moment the call will arrive, when it already arrived and is arriving continuously. It is not in front of you, it is the thing you have turned away from so many times that the turning has gone automatic. The way a person stops noticing, they walk around a piece of furniture that is in the wrong place. You do not need to find it. You need to catch yourself avoiding it. 2. You turned it into a career question. This happens to Campbell in particular because of 4 words. Follow your bliss. Those 4 words have sold an enormous number of posters and ruined a large number of Tuesdays. Campbell took the phrase out of Sanskrit, Sat Chit Ananda, being consciousness, rapture. He said he was not certain about his being or his consciousness, but he knew where his rapture was, and that if he held to it, it would carry him to the other 2. That is a considerably stranger claim than quit your job. And late in his life, watching what people had done with it, he said he should have told them to follow their blisters. 3. You said yes in your head. This is the most sophisticated refusal available, and it is the one that people who watch videos like this one are most vulnerable to. You have understood the argument. You feel the recognition somewhere in your chest. You may even feel something that resembles relief. And nothing in your calendar is different next week. Agreement is not crossing. Understanding a threshold is a way of standing at it indefinitely with an unusually good reason. 4. You are waiting for the path. Campbell loved one detail out of the Arthurian Grail romances. The knights agreed it would be a disgrace to ride out as a group, so each of them entered the forest at the point he himself had chosen, where it was darkest and where there was no way or path. Sit with that, because there are 2 conditions in it, and everybody remembers only one, where it was darkest and where there was no path. If there is a path, it is somebody else's. The fact that you cannot see how to do this is not evidence that you have the wrong call. It is very nearly the proof that you have the right one. 5, and this is the real one. The refusal is load-bearing. Stay here a moment. Your refusal is not sitting off to one side of your life. It is holding something up. It is holding up the entire account you give of why your life looks the way it looks. Because as long as you did not go, there is a reason you did not go. The money, the timing, the family, the health, the person who needed you. And every one of those reasons was real. That is what makes this so hard. They were real. But look at what they buy. As long as the reason holds, you are a person who was stopped. The moment you go, you become something far more expensive. You become a person who could have gone the whole time. And every year of the wasteland gets refiled, retroactively, out of the drawer marked what happened to me, and into the drawer marked what I did. Nobody surrenders that casually. The refusal is not laziness. It is an insurance policy on your own innocence. So suppose you go. Here is what nobody tells you, and it is why a great many people who do answer turn back inside the first year. It does not feel like liberation. It feels like failure. Campbell has a stage for this, and it is the least marketable idea in the entire book. He calls it the belly of the whale. The hero crosses the threshold and is not greeted. He is swallowed. He goes into the dark and appears, from the outside and from the inside both, to have died. Campbell says this is not a detour on the way in. It is the way in. The passage of the threshold is a form of self-annihilation, which means the first months on the far side of your yes will produce exactly the evidence your refusal always predicted. You will be worse at this than you were at the thing you left. You will be a beginner at an age where being a beginner is humiliating. The people who loved the old version of you will be kind about it in a way that is worse than criticism. And every single day there will be a moment where the reasonable thing is to go back, and the reasonable thing will be genuinely reasonable. Now the part almost nobody says. You cannot get to the yes by despising the no. There is an entire industry built on making you contemptuous of the years you did not go, and it does not work, because the contempt is only the refusal wearing new clothes. It keeps your attention fixed on the wasteland, which is precisely where the refusal wants it. The child who first learned to bury the impulse was not weak. That child was correct. It read the room accurately and made a trade that worked, and that trade bought you a life with real love in it, and real work in it, and real people. It was an honest bargain. It simply expired, and nobody sent a notice. So what do you actually do? Not the whole thing. You are not being asked for the whole thing, and the reason you keep failing to begin is that you keep pricing the whole thing. Campbell's knights did not map the forest. They rode to the treeline, and each man went in where it was darkest for him. That is the entire instruction, not the far side, the treeline. The place where it goes dark is not the obstacle standing in front of the door. It is the door. And you already know where yours is. You have known it the whole time you have been listening to this. Something surfaced about 90 seconds in, and you moved past it, and it has been sitting underneath everything since. You do not have to do anything about it tonight, but you can stop pretending you do not know what it is. That much is free, and it is the only part that cannot be delegated. The wasteland is not a sentence somebody passed on you. It is a description of a place you are standing in, and a description is the one kind of thing a person can walk out of. Campbell said the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. Privilege. Not obligation, not achievement, privilege. Something offered, something that can be declined, and has been. It is still being offered. It has been asking the whole time. It is remarkably patient, and it is not infinite.